Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome to another Chinese special from Gearbest.com. But this isn't one of the $50 dazzlers from Gearbest today, it's the other type of watch that I've reviewed from them. I've looked at a couple of these European design, very stylish, skeletonized Xiaomi Ciga watches in the past. You may remember this one. I regarded it as the ultimate anti-smartwatch. Looked like an Apple Watch but with none of the functionality. Or what they call the 2017. This one I reckoned had all of the features of the movement arc but for about a third of the money. You'll find both of those and the subject of today's review in my Gearbest selection along with all of my $50 dazzlers in a link in the description of the video. Now you know you're getting something a bit different with these Ciga design watches even from the outer packaging. They don't come in an ordinary watch box. They come in one of these. Very unusual. Let's flip the camera and get into the box. Well, before we get into the box, let's have a quick look at the Gearbest website. These Ciga design Michael Young watches normally sit around $240 US. There's a flash sale on the black and silver versions, $190 US. There's also a $15 voucher, so the bottom line price today is $175 US. Definitely the cheapest that I've seen this watch, and you're clearly getting something different. This is a Chinese watch that isn't trying to look like a Swiss watch. It's doing its own thing. Michael Young, a British designer originally from Sunderland in the northeast. He's been plying his trade in Hong Kong for the last 20 years. He's done a few watches with Ciga and also with Void amongst others, so a lot of effort into this one. Won an IF Gold Award in 2017 for the design, and well it might. You're clearly getting something a bit different with this one. As I said, not the ordinary box. If you watched the last one, if you watched the other Xiaomi Ciga square design one, this box will look kind of familiar. The head of the watch there, a couple of different strap choices, and a slightly unnecessary spring bar removal tool because both of these are on quick releases. Oh, and there you are, it also won a German Design Award in 2019. So we have a multiple award-winning watch for you to look at today. So all the usual good stuff, no loom video because this one doesn't have loom, but I have a frighteningly accurate movement accuracy report. I'm going to give you dimensions and specifications, get this one on wrist inside and out, and put it on both of those straps for you. So as you can see, it's a perfect circle, 45mm diameter, 45 north to south, 12.5mm thick, but only 38mm lug to lug. It's got those slightly unusual hidden lugs, bringing that right inboard, meaning that this one wears remarkably well given the diameter. 22mm lug width. Neither of the strap selections that come in the package feature any form of taper, so we're 22-22. Very nice etched fold over clasp on the Milanese on the mesh. This one, all metal, weighs in at 120 grams. The leather one comes in at about 100, so you save a little bit of weight if you swap out the mesh for the leather, but I've been wearing it on this. So 316L stainless steel, it's a three-piece case. We've got a high polish on the side, kind of pot case, one of those kind of little pie pan cases. High polish on the side, brushed, finished on the top part, and we've got a display case back. Let me show you that. And there is the watch from the rear. Ciga design, designed by Michael Young, just in case you've forgotten. His name is on the packaging, the front of the watch and the back of the watch. Screw down case back as observed, 3 atmospheres, 30 meters of water resistance. You're not going to be getting this one wet all that often, therefore I would suggest in spite of the mesh strap. Now the movement inside here is a seagull, custom made for the Ciga design watch. They call it an ST2551JK, 25 joules, hacked hand wind, bi-directional rotor, and roughly a 40-hour power reserve. Now they're quoting -15 to +30 as the stated accuracy, which puts it on par with most entry-level movements. However, I popped this one in the boxy winders and I got a fairly remarkable less than a second deviation per day average over a couple of weeks. Now you're buying one of these watches without a Seiko or a Miyota movement in it. There's always a bit of a question mark, so it's great. I mean, Ciga will make millions of movements each year, but it's always reassuring when you get one and it's a good one. There's also a reasonable bit of decoration. You can see some of the bridges, the rubies, a bit of perlage, some decoration on the rotor as well, all done quite cleanly. But this one really is all about the dial, isn't it? And a very interesting Different way of approaching. Rather than having the dial as a standalone, they very much integrated the dial and the movement together and made the movement as much of a part of the front of the watch as it is part of the back of the watch, if you see what I mean. And it's dished, concave, big kind of bowl, quite obvious, only 12.5mm thick as noted, but you can see a distinct curve around the edges and very, very clean outer. Obviously the movement is part of the fun today. It is the attractant on the inner. You can see the balance wheel, various bits of decoration and various rubies, etc, etc. So once again, Ciga design, Michael Young just printed on. Now we've got batons, 1 minute indices all the way around, slightly longer at the 12, the 6 and the 9, and again slightly longer at the 5s, so you will be able to tell the time on it reasonably well. Hands I think are nicely proportioned. I guess you're not going to make too much of a show of the hands when the whole watch is the object of the exercise as discussed. Skeletonized black hands is still pretty legible, and I think they're in reasonable proportion to the rest of the dial. And the mesh strap is a good one, bit of a Goldilocks' porridge this, not too thick, not too thin. Plenty of adjustment recesses there and nicely manufactured, no defects, sealed at the ends, and as discussed, nice little Ciga design logo etched into the fold over. And there it is sitting on top of my 7-inch wrist. Very unusual due to that perfect circular top surface and those hidden lugs. I think I've only reviewed about 3 or 4 watches with hidden lugs, but they do change the way a watch looks on the wrist. Super comfy though, mesh straps if you've never owned one, great for the summer and pretty much infinitely adjustable, so you get almost as much adjustment as you do with a micro adjust bracelet and certainly more than you do with a leather strap. Nice dead flat piece of sapphire crystal covering the dial, which is what you would expect given that this is one of the premium Chinese specials. And that's it, zoomed out a little higher for perspective. I don't think this one's too big. I think it's a reasonable size. It's going to be too big for some. I mean, 45mm diameter. Let's be honest, this is not going to be a watch that suits everyone. It's going to be a bit of a polarizer, but I think if you're into something that looks out of the ordinary but is still usable and wearable, then it certainly has some appeal. And that's it outside in some natural light. Obviously, it's not a diver, it's not the most legible watch in the world. It's a bit of a style statement on your wrist rather than being a utilitarian tool watch, but wears very, very well indeed because of that 38mm lug tip to lug tip. I wasn't really expecting it. It does kind of sit on top of your wrist, but very comfortable, nicely integrated mesh strap. And back inside and back on the leather strap, if you are into leather, probably wouldn't want to have more than a 7.5-inch wrist. They have got a nice Ciga design again etched into the buckle, and it is brushed to match the side of the case and the matte finish on the dial. I suspect though the black leather probably go better with the black watch head rather than the silver one. I think the silver looks better on the mesh, frankly. Moans and niggles then. Well, as discussed, this one is not going to have universal appeal. It's not meant to tempt you away from your trusty SKX. I think it fulfills a different role today for people who are looking for something with a bit more style, a bit of a design statement rather than something tooly. Now the crown, I understand why it is only a small crown. It wouldn't be part of the overall design if it had been too big and too bulky, but it is a little bit small. It's a bit tricky if you're going to hand wind this one. It's not really good for that. And it is a touch noisy. It's not Miyota 8215 noisy. We're not at that level today, but you are aware that it does have a rotor. It is an automatic watch. But it's nicely done. I mean, if you're going to skeletonize, then you've got to do it well, and I think this one gets all the machining nice and clean, and there's enough decoration on the rotor. There's various bits of perlage work on some of the watch mechanisms as well. So $175, you know, can you imagine how much this one would cost if it was made in Germany, or if it was a Euro design, Euro manufactured by a Euro company? You'd be looking to add a zero onto the end of that, I'm sure. So not a $50 dazzler today, but this one certainly has an appeal all of its own. So there you have it, another stylized and very interesting Euro-inspired Chinese special from Gearbest.com. We've spanned the globe in under 10 minutes today. Not the cheapest watch that I've reviewed from Gearbest, but I think it goes some way to justifying the price, even from the outer packaging. 2 strap choices, and everything is nicely done today. If you're going to skeletonize a watch, you're going to have to do it properly, and I think they got this one just right. Sapphire crystal and a surprisingly accurate accurate automatic movement in this one as well. Don't forget, if you're keen on this or any of my other Chinese specials, check the link in the description of the video. Thanks for watching, see you next time.